Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. Sometimes I think about how we all search for healing in our lives,
Mhm.
and then I start to think about how so many times throughout history, people have been caught between tradition and
Right.
like these huge societal shifts, and it
Yeah.
makes you think about like the courage it takes for just ordinary people
Yeah, totally.
to like face those situations.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be diving into today.
I love it. It's amazing how like a personal story can, be set against this like big historical backdrop,
Yeah.
but it like resonates with all these like universal things that we all go
Yeah,
through.
exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of history,
Yeah.
today we're going deep into historical fiction
Okay, cool.
with Janette Oke's The Pharisee's Wife.
Awesome.
So this book, it like totally pulls you into this like super intense time in history.
I know, it's so vivid.
And it shows you all of these people who are like living through these like crazy changes.
Yeah.
And if you love uncovering the human side of history
Mm-hmm.
and, how belief shapes everything,
Yeah.
hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of our
Future deep dives.
future deep dives. Yeah.
I was gonna say.
So we're breaking down the Pharisee's wife today.
Sweet.
And at its heart is this story of a young woman named Mary.
Okay.
And like her life takes this completely unexpected turn when she meets the world of the Pharisees,
Right.
which is like this super significant religious and social group
Right.
in like first century Judea.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into like all the challenges that she faces,
Yeah.
all this intense societal pressure of the time,
Mm.
and this new faith that emerges that like totally changes her world
Totally.
and the lives of everyone around her.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's an important story.
So get ready to see how like personal struggles
Yeah.
can like be all wrapped up in these huge historical events,
Right.
and how the choices that people make can have consequences that like ripple out
Yeah.
like way farther than they ever would have thought.
It's so true.
So let's start with Mary's life in her village.
Okay.
What really stood out to you about like her initial setup?
Well, I think it's really fascinating how Oke creates this sense of like innocence,
Yeah.
but then also this like underlying tension
Yeah.
in Mary's world right from the beginning.
That's so true. Yeah.
You know?
We meet Mary in her small village,
Mhm.
and she's only around 15.
Okay.
So like still really young.
Very young.
And even in this like seemingly simple setting, right?
Yeah.
Like rural life.
Yeah.
But there's this moment at the market that's like, whoa,
Okay.
this is setting the stage for everything to come.
I see. Yeah.
They talk about her beauty, how she just like stands out
Yeah.
and it draws attention, but like not always in a good way.
Yeah.
And they contrast her beauty with how like plainly she's dressed.
Mm-hmm.
And even just something like her shawl slipping off her shoulder
Right.
becomes a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? It's
Yeah.
like this tiny detail, but it makes you think about like
Mhm.
how vulnerable women were
Yeah.
and how they could be judged for like anything,
Right.
especially in the society.
Totally.
And then like right away, you see the Pharisees at the market.
Oh. Okay.
And they're not just there to, buy stuff.
Right.
They're looking for the teacher, the rabbi,
Yeah.
which like we know for the listeners who might not know,
Right.
that's Jesus they're talking about.
Exactly.
And even in this tiny village,
Yeah.
his presence, even just the idea of him,
Mm-hmm.
is enough to get the Pharisees all riled up.
Right. Right.
And there's this fear,
Yeah.
a vendor even like hides Mary
Wow.
and tells her to keep her shawl on
Oh.
because the Pharisees are there.
Oh,
It's like
totally.
everyone's walking on eggshells,
It really paints a picture of this community that's like living in fear
Yeah.
a little bit,
Totally. And it shows how like the unease and opposition to Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't just in Jerusalem, it was spreading
Totally. Totally.
even to these little villages.
Yeah.
Their authority, their worry about his influence,
Yeah.
it was everywhere.
It was widespread.
And then like within Mary's own family,
Mm.
you see this deep need
Okay.
for healing her father.
Right.
Now, he's described as crawling, needing a stool to sit.
Okay.
So we kind of get the idea that he's,
He's disabled.
yeah, he's disabled, right?
Yeah.
And he's holding on to this hope
Right.
that the prophet can heal him.
Yeah.
And they just missed him in their village.
Oh, no.
So there's this like disappointment,
Right.
but also this like desperate hope,
It really speaks to how much people were hurting
Yeah.
and how much hope Jesus represented, especially for people who were suffering or like pushed to the margins of society.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, what were all the personal stories behind these big historical
Oh,
moments?
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get this totally opposite view of Jesus
Oh, okay.
from the Pharisees.
Right.
They're like, nope, he's just a carpenter
Just a carpenter.
from Nazareth.
From Nazareth.
Like, you know,
Nothing special.
nothing special.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the right credentials.
He wasn't trained properly.
He wasn't taught by the right people.
So how could he be a prophet?
It's ridiculous.
Right.
So, like, right away, you have this clash.
Yeah, this huge conflict.
The belief of
Beliefs.
right.
Right.
It's so interesting because they're so stuck in their ways
Yes.
that they can't even imagine
Right.
that there might be a different way
Right.
of, like, you know,
Of God working in the world.
yeah, of God working in the world,
Yes.
of authority. You know, it's just,
Good.
nope, this is the way it is.
This is how it has to be.
This is how it's always been.
Right.
And it makes you think, like, how often do we do that
Oh, you know.
in our own lives?
Like, how often are we so sure
Yeah.
that we're right
Mm-hmm.
that we miss out on new truths or perspectives?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That is such a good question to think about.
It really is.
Okay, so we have Mary in this village life
Yeah.
with these simple hopes, but also these tensions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then her world gets totally flipped upside down
Okay.
with this unexpected proposal.
Oh, yeah.
This is the thing that, like, totally changes her life's course.
This is it.
Right.
Yeah.
So this Pharisee from Jerusalem named Enos,
Okay.
he sees Mary at the market.
All right.
And boom, he's like struck by her beauty.
Oh, wow.
Especially because, you know, she's in these simple clothes.
Yeah, she's not dressed up fancy or
You know, she's not like these fancy Jerusalem women.
Right.
But it's obvious that he doesn't really know her.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like, his motivation isn't about love or connection.
Right.
He wants her as his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly because he wants other men to be jealous
Wow.
in Jerusalem.
What a shallow reason.
I know,
I
right?
want to marry someone.
That's a pretty, like, shallow and self-centered.
Yeah, it really says a lot about him.
Yeah, it really does.
And the values of his world.
Exactly.
You know, like, relationships are just transactions.
It is very transactional.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Enos's people show up
Oh, wow.
at Mary's house
Okay.
with this, like, official marriage proposal.
Okay.
Can you imagine her parents?
I know, they must have been so shocked.
Like, whoa, what's happening?
And probably scared, too.
Right.
A little bit.
Like, a little intimidated.
Especially with the Pharisees involved.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And Huldah, Mary's mom,
Right.
her first thought is, are they here for Benjamin?
Is my son in trouble?
Right.
Whoa.
Like, that's how she sees the Pharisees
Right.
as this potential threat.
Yeah.
It's like,
It makes you think that maybe their past interactions with the Pharisees weren't so great.
exactly.
Yeah.
Not all sunshine and roses.
Yeah, maybe there were some negative experiences.
Right.
And they were seen as kind of powerful and maybe even a little dangerous.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
That power dynamic is there.
Totally.
And then poor Mary, she feels so guilty.
Oh, no.
She thinks it's her fault
Yeah.
that the Pharisees are there
Right.
because she let her shawl slip.
Oh, wow. She's blaming herself
I
for
know.
this whole situation.
Imagine feeling that weight.
It's so much pressure.
I'm 15 years old.
For a young girl,
It's crazy.
it really shows how much pressure women faced
Yeah.
than to be modest and proper.
Yeah, it's all about appearances.
Yeah.
And then we get into these negotiations.
Okay.
And it's so interesting
Sure.
because it shows you, like, the social rules
Mhm.
and the money stuff
Right.
of the time.
Yeah.
So the Pharisees guy, he's like,
Yeah.
it's a huge honor to marry a Pharisee.
Huge honor.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he immediately goes into the money part.
Oh, wow.
Like, your debt will be wiped clean.
You'll never have to work again.
Mary will be set for life.
Wow.
It's like so transactional.
It's like they're buying her.
I know.
Almost, right?
Yeah.
Like she's a commodity
Right.
to improve their social standing
Exactly.
and solve their financial problems.
It's not even about love
Right.
or, like, getting to know each other.
It's so different from how we think of marriage today.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not based on like love and companionship.
Right.
It's about social and economic factors,
Yes.
primarily.
And then Mary's dad,
Yeah.
he does this amazing thing.
What?
He stands up to them.
Wow.
He's like,
Yeah.
my daughter is worth more than money.
You can't just buy her.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so powerful.
I know, it shows so much character.
He really does.
It's like he's going against
Yeah.
all the pressure
Yeah.
of society
Right.
to just accept this offer.
Yeah, to just take the money and run.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's saying, no, there's more to my daughter than that.
Yes.
She's a human being.
She has value beyond money.
She has inherent dignity.
Right.
That's so important.
And then Huldah,
Yeah.
she jumps in,
Okay.
and the Pharisees guy,
Yeah.
he's like super dismissive.
We don't need to discuss this.
Yeah, he's like, there's no need for discussion.
It's not up for debate.
Don't disrespect the Pharisees.
Right.
It's like a threat almost.
Oh, wow.
It's like,
So they really had all the power
oh yeah,
in this situation.
totally.
And they weren't afraid to use it.
Yeah, and they make it clear
Yeah.
that, like, you don't mess with the Pharisees.
Exactly.
And then Mary's dad,
Yeah.
he prays.
Okay.
He asks for God's guidance.
That's beautiful.
It's really touching.
Yeah, he's relying on his faith
Yeah,
to guide him through this.
because it's a huge decision.
It is a huge decision.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the end, they agree.
Okay.
Mary's going to marry Enos,
Right.
and they're going to get this bride price.
Yeah.
But there's a catch.
Oh, okay.
The wedding's going to be delayed,
Right.
and Mary has to go to Jerusalem
At Jerusalem.
for training
For training.
with this lady who's like a mentor.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like, on the surface, it seems like
Yeah.
they want to prepare her
We're going to make her ready
for this new life,
to be a good Pharisee wife.
to fit in.
Yeah.
But it's also a way to, like, separate her
Yeah.
from everything she knows.
From her family.
Yeah, from her village.
Her village.
And, like, immerse her in this really strict
Yeah.
Pharisee lifestyle.
Yeah, it's like indoctrination almost.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So leaving home is like so emotional for Mary.
You can imagine.
She holds on to her father's shawl,
Oh, wow.
like as this reminder of him
Right.
and her old life.
That's so symbolic.
I know.
That shawl, it's like this thread that connects her to her past.
Yeah, her roots.
Yeah.
And then her mom,
Okay.
she's like super excited.
We're going to be rich.
Yeah, she's all about the money.
No more debt.
We're going to be set.
My daughter's going to be a fancy Pharisee's wife.
It's like so different from Mary's feelings.
It shows how differently they view this
Yeah.
whole situation.
Oh, right, yeah.
You one's focused on the practical, the money.
Hmm.
The other is like, leaving her whole life behind.
Exactly.
Heartbreaking, really.
And then Mary gets to Jerusalem,
Right?
and she gets a new name, Simona.
Oh, wow. A new name
I know.
for a new life?
Right.
Yeah.
And she meets this woman, Amidst,
Okay.
who lives in the same house.
Right.
And Amidst's like, girl, let me tell you about this place.
Listen up.
This house is run by the widow Mary,
Okay.
who's like
yeah.
super strict.
She's a Levite's daughter.
Yeah, Levite's daughter, a widow.
Very serious.
Very serious.
Knows her stuff.
So for people who don't know, the Levites,
Right?
they were like one of the 12 tribes of Israel,
Mm-hmm.
and they had these specific religious duties.
Right.
So the widow Mary, she's like representing this old school.
Yeah, she's like super connected
Yeah.
to the traditions of the temple
Totally.
and probably has a very like conservative
Yeah.
interpretation of religious law.
By the book.
Yeah, no messing around.
No messing around.
Yeah.
And Amidst is like, Simona, they think you're sinful.
They're going to keep you away from me.
You can't eat with us. You can't ask questions.
Especially about Jesus of Nazareth.
Don't even think about it.
Wow. I
Like-
can't even say his name.
Yeah.
It shows how much fear, anger
Yeah.
surrounded Jesus.
Especially in those circles.
Yeah, in those Pharisee circles.
So Simona's like thrown into this world
Totally isolated.
where everything is strict and controlled.
Right.
And she's supposed to like pray while doing chores,
Right.
which is so different from her life.
Imagine that.
I know, right?
Going from this like simple village life
Yeah.
to this like super strict religious household.
It's a huge culture shock.
Totally.
Yeah.
It must have been so overwhelming for her.
And meanwhile,
Yeah.
we get this glimpse into Enos's world.
Okay.
And what's happening in Jerusalem,
Yeah.
he's all about climbing the ladder.
I want to be at the top.
Yeah, he wants power in the Pharisee world.
I want to be the most important Pharisee.
And he's got this rival,
Oh, who is it?
this guy named Judah of Antioch.
Judah of Antioch.
And he's worried about him.
Okay, so there's like competition even within
Oh, yeah,
the religious leaders.
totally.
It wasn't just this like unified group. There was infighting and power struggles.
Yeah, they were all about getting ahead.
Yeah, totally.
And then there's the Sanhedrin.
Right, the Jewish ruling council.
Yeah,
Big players.
they're getting more and more worried about Jesus. People are saying he's the promised one,
Oh, wow.
like fulfilling prophecies from
Right.
Isaiah.
Okay.
And that's like a huge threat.
Right.
to their authority.
To their power.
Yeah, they're like, we're in charge here,
And we don't like this guy coming in,
messing things up.
challenging our authority.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were afraid of losing their influence,
Yeah.
their control over everything,
Yeah,
religious life, social life, everything.
Totally. It was their world.
And they were going to protect it.
Yeah, and this is all happening
Yeah.
while Simone is starting to have these thoughts
Okay.
about Jesus.
Right.
She's curious about him.
Yeah.
And it goes back to her dad
Yeah.
and how much he believed
Right.
that Jesus could heal him.
Right.
So it's like this little seed of doubt
Yeah, like a tiny seed
planted in her mind.
planted by her father's faith,
Yeah,
which, maybe wasn't sophisticated
right.
to the Pharisees.
He didn't know enough.
He wasn't educated,
He wasn't one of us,
but it was genuine.
but it was real.
Yeah.
And it gave Simona this different perspective
Right.
from what she was being taught.
Yeah. A different way of seeing things.
And even the widow Mary,
Yeah.
who's like all about the rules,
Right.
she's a little worried
Okay.
about Simona's interest in Jesus.
He's like, be careful.
Yeah.
She's like,
That's dangerous territory.
I know you're innocent, but this is serious stuff. It's
Yeah.
like she understands how dangerous
Yeah.
the situation is.
It's like she's caught between
Yeah.
her own beliefs
Mm,
and her responsibility for Simona.
totally.
And she knows the risks.
And Enos,
Yeah.
he's trying to get in good
I got to impress the right people.
with temple priests.
Got to get on their good side.
He wants to be the guy
Right.
handling the offerings.
It's a prestigious position.
But they give him the boring jobs.
The grunt work.
Yeah.
Start at the bottom.
But then there's this chance. Oh, okay.
Because of his friend,
Who's the friend?
probably Judah.
Oh, wow. His rival.
I know, right?
Interesting.
It's all about who you know
Yeah, connections are everything.
in this world.
Right.
And it just shows how ambitious Enos is
Yeah, he wants that recognition,
Yeah.
and power.
to be important.
Yeah, to be a big deal.
And then we move on to Simona's wedding.
Okay.
And it's like this huge fancy ceremony.
Now it's tradition.
And these
They
rituals.
don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, it's totally overwhelming for her.
Totally different from anything she's used to.
From her simple village wedding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's being thrown into this world
Yeah.
of ancient customs and fancy rituals.
Like a whole new world.
It must have been so strange for her.
She sees this like kindness in Enos
Oh, okay.
at the feast.
Right?
So she's like, maybe things will be okay.
Maybe he's not so bad.
Maybe there's hope for us.
Right.
But then she has to deal with this huge household.
So many servants.
So many rules.
It's so complicated.
Even though the widow Mary
Right.
tried to prepare her,
Yeah.
it's just like so much more
Than she could have imagined.
than she could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
And it really shows you the difference
Wow.
between Simona's old life
Mm-hmm.
and her new life.
Right.
It's like night and day.
Totally different worlds.
But then the servants,
Yeah.
they start to care about her.
Oh, that's nice.
It's like
Yeah.
this little bit of warmth
Yeah, a little bit of humanity.
in this very formal setting.
It shows that even in this rigid system,
Yeah.
people can still connect.
They can still find kindness.
Right.
Yeah.
And basic human decency.
And then Enos starts getting really involved
Okay.
in the whole anti-Jesus movement.
We got to stop this guy.
He's going to these meetings where they're like,
He's a fake.
Jesus is a fraud.
He's dangerous.
And they pick Enos
Wow.
to be one of the guys
Yeah.
to destroy the false prophet.
Wow.
And he's so angry.
It's scary.
It's intense, right?
Yeah.
And it shows how much this has consumed him.
Totally. It's like he's lost himself
Yeah.
in this hatred.
It's like the initial impression of him being a little bit nicer
Right.
is totally gone.
Yeah, the mask has fallen.
Yeah.
And you see his true colors.
And Simona, she's seeing all this.
Right.
And she's remembering her dad
Yeah.
and how much he believed.
Right.
And she's so conflicted
She's torn.
inside
Yeah.
because she's supposed to be loyal.
To her husband.
Yeah. But she's starting to think,
Maybe they're wrong.
maybe Jesus isn't this evil person.
Yeah.
And then Enos says,
Mm.
we're going to try to get the death penalty for Jesus.
Wow.
And he says it so calmly,
Like it's nothing.
like it's nothing.
Chilling.
It's really scary, right?
Yeah.
Because it shows how they don't even see Jesus
Mm.
as a real person.
Right. They've dehumanized him
Yeah.
in their minds.
Yeah. And Simona's caught
Totally.
in this web
Yeah, she's trapped
of duty and belief.
between what she's supposed to do
Yeah.
and what she's starting to feel.
It's a turning point for her.
A major turning point.
Yeah, her